like a dreamer. Fly all over the world. Open your shell so the world can see. You're a beautiful pearl. Live your day like you mean it. And don't forget who you are. You're free to go anywhere. There's no distance too far. And I just can't get enough of your energy. I just can't get enough. You're the spark shining in the dark. Oh, 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 love.
Welcome to It Is What It Is with Cindy Seville. I'm so happy you're here. We have another great show in store for you. It Is What It Is a story all about real people, real life stories, real life adversity, how they overcome and how they inspire others. Today's story is fascinating. But before we get to that, let's get to mitzvah time. What's a mitzvah? It's a good deed. So I'm going to talk to you about a gentleman. He's a friend of mine, good friend of mine. His name is Don Clady, Don and his wife Pat. And Don Clady puts this amazing magazine together called Connecticut Cruise News. Now, Connecticut Cruise News goes not just to Connecticut, but it also hits up New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. So in this, well, actually, I should preface this by saying Don Clady, he was the one who ran all the events in Danbury, Connecticut at the Marcus Dairy, all the motorcycle and bike shows. And he still does all the car and bike shows all throughout Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts. And he's well known for this. Now, mitzvah, he does a lot of good deeds here. He's a veteran, and he really supports veterans. And this is actually, this edition, this is December, January edition, he gears this towards the veterans and giving back. So I also want to, and he gives back all the time, so I'm bringing him up because he does a lot of mitzvot, or many mitzvahs, all the time. But I was asked, and I started last month, to write a column in his paper, and I am so flattered and so honored, and I have been getting amazing feedback. So if you can get your hands on one of these papers, Connecticut Cruise News, make sure you look for my column. Thank you also, sorry, I hit my mic. Thank you, Don, for allowing me to contribute to your paper. It's a fabulous, I've always loved this paper, so it's quite an honor to be writing in it. And yeah, you do amazing things. So I'm happy to help support you in any way. So Connecticut Cruise News, guys, a little plug for Don Clady. Pick one of these up. Make sure you hit up some of his car and bike shows, and you're going to have a great time. So remember, comment, like, and share. And if you get chosen, more times you comment, like, and share, more chances you have of possibly winning the giveaway, which happens to be my book. It Is What It Is. So make sure it's a fun read, very emotional read, and it's a book that anybody could really relate to. So check it out, comment, like, and share. Now, when we come back from this commercial break, we're going to meet Gabriella Vargas. Gabriella Vargas solved a crime in 4 days that nobody could solve since 1987. She was on 48 Hours. She was featured on 48 Hours. She'll be on lots of other shows. She is absolutely incredible. She solved many other crimes, and she's a genealogist, and criminology is her background. So when we come back, you're going to meet this fabulous woman. Don't go far.
Silvermine at Home, a Connecticut-based non-medical home care agency servicing Connecticut and parts of New York. Silvermine caters to their clients' needs while offering peace of mind to their families so their loved one can age in place and live their best life possible. Call today to see how they can make a difference in you or your loved one's life. Our family caring for yours. Visit silvermineathome.com or call 203-228-5007.
Welcome back to It Is What It Is with Cindy Seville, and we have Gabriella Vargas here today. Welcome, Gabriella.
Thank you. How are
You're,
you?
you're welcome. I'm happy you're here with us today.
Thank you.
So you have become a celebrity of sorts recently.
Hardly. I don't like to believe so.
Because you're very humble.
I am. I am truly just a average girl.
So let's go back. We're going to start, right from the beginning, how your story kind of started, like where you are today. So when we had a great conversation. Oh my God. I'm telling you, like East Coast, West Coast, bosom buddies.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. So way back, you were diagnosed with some medical issues and, you're trying to figure out why, where'd you get these? So tell us how it all started.
I was diagnosed in 2018 with medullary thyroid cancer, which is a genetic form of cancer. I had autoimmune issues for about 15 years prior to that, so when it began. Nobody in my family had any of these issues, and they're hereditary. I never thought twice about it. It was when I was diagnosed in 2018, the doctor recommended that I do genetic testing, especially for the benefit of my children. And unfortunately, my insurance would not cover it. So he suggested that I take a direct-to-consumer DNA test, like Ancestry or 23andMe, and you can download the results and upload it to a medical site, and essentially get similar results as genetic testing. So that's what I did.
And those results could determine where you got, the medical issues from?
Well, it essentially determines what medical issues you could expect to have or the probability of having, not necessarily where you got them from. When I got my results, the top 10 illnesses that said you are likely to have this, I had already been diagnosed with. So I felt that it was a pretty accurate, reading of my DNA. Unfortunately, I also got unexpected results in my DNA with my own parentage. And so I then went on a quest after I called Ancestry and said, hi, I think you've given me somebody else's results. I went on a quest to figure out my own family mystery, and I taught myself. I was, I Googled and I did a lot of reading, and I was able to make that identification.
It's crazy how you were looking for answers medically and you were kind of surprised with the results that you got.
And actually, I had absolutely no interest in genealogy. I remember when my great grandmother passed away, she had a book on the table that said the family Bible, and somebody had asked if I wanted it. I thought it was like the Bible that we've had in our family for all of these years. I didn't realize that the family Bible is actually your family history, your tree. And so I regret now not getting it. But I knew where my family came from. I knew where I came from, or so I thought. During that period of time, I get these unexpected results. I've got this cancer that is very new to me. I have a child who is not even 1 yet at the time, as well as 3 other children. I'm very sick. I'm very depressed. I'm hopeless, essentially. And so I started an online group for people who had also gotten unexpected results, mainly as a support group. And I found there was a great need for people to, looking for help with their own DNA problems, and those that were adopted, donor conceived, or they got the same results that I got. And so I I turned my depression into a purpose, and I started helping adoptees and those with unknown parentage.
That's incredible. I mean, and what a shock. I mean, what a shock. You just had a baby, you've got 3 other kids, you're diagnosed with cancer, and what a shock. The last thing you expect. And
Yeah.
it kind of defines your life now. I mean, it's you've taken that and you've kind of gone with, what is it? That you've gone with the skid. You turned in with the skid, you know?
I've had no choice, and unfortunately, it seems to be that in 2018, in particular, um, people, being in, we call an NPE, you had a non-paternal event or non-parental event, or not expected, parent. It became almost a phenomenon in that period of time, and that there were so many people that were getting results, and their mothers are saying, no, I was a, church going, nun. And you're like, no, you were doing the priest, because this is the priestess child, bad analogy. I'm sorry.
No,
But
it's actually really funny.
but that's what I was seeing. And I had a team. It wasn't just me. There was a whole team of us, and we offered this service for free, for people. And we had our support group. And after about a year of it, criminology and anything to do with crime is really my passion. That's what I went to school for.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really wanted to do something with that, but I was starting to love this genealogy stuff. And that's about when, in 2018, the Golden State Killer case was solved. And it was, kind of realized that, wait, if we can do this with unknown parentage cases, why can't we do this with suspect and doe cases? And that's what I wanted to get involved with.
What are suspect and doe cases?
So essentially, they're criminal cases that law enforcement, that have tried to investigate. They've gone cold. There's a Jane or John or baby doe that is found, human remains are found, they cannot make the identification, or there's a homicide or a rape, and they cannot identify a suspect. And so over time, the case goes cold.
Okay. Now, the way I found you, somehow you popped up on my feed somewhere, and you solved a crime in 4 days that nobody could solve since 1987. How did you do it?
Well, first, I want to say it was definitely a collaborative effort. Law enforcement had been investigating this crime since 1987. The husband was the targeted suspect for all of the 34 years. The DNA was tested in, I believe, 2011, against the husband. He was not a match, but they still believed he had some sort of involvement. Fast forward to 2020, this agency, Michigan State Police, they contacted other companies that do this type of work, and they determined the DNA was so small. I mean, the amount of DNA was just minimal, that they weren't interested in taking the case on. Mm-hmm. At that point, they turned to another company, and that founder of that company agreed to take the case on. And I was contracted with them at the time, to work cases for them. Okay. So essentially, my involvement didn't come until the DNA had gone through a long process, 9 months through the lab. There were a lot of issues with it. I was not involved in any of that. And when it came out of the lab, it then gets uploaded into GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA. we had a rotation system at the time of, you get the next case. This was not a case that was mine. And so I kind of had no involvement at all until about April of 2021.
Okay. And once you got involved, you didn't sleep.
So actually what had happened was the genealogist that was assigned this case told the founder of the company, this case is not solvable. The DNA is too degraded. You're going to have to tell the detective, I'm sorry. She had also consumed every last bit of the DNA. So this was the last hope for this case. She then asked another one of her genealogists who was next up in that rotation to look at it, and she agreed with the first one that this case was not solvable. So she was actually on the phone with me just to vent that she was so sad that she had to call the detective the next day and tell him, I'm sorry, but there's really nothing we can do. And I like a good challenge. And so I said, well, why don't you let me look at it? Just before you call him, just get a third pair of eyes, why not? So she did. She was so gracious and happy that I was willing to do that. And so I spent about 4 hours that night looking at the data. I'm not looking really at the matches so much. I'm looking at what the data is saying to me. And I felt that it was a very solvable case. I didn't know how long it was going to take, but I was confident that I could solve it.
That's incredible. I mean, really, since 1987. Now, do you think, they didn't have the 23andMe and I can't remember all the terminology, but all those sites, those websites, that people upload their DNA to, and the crime one where you can, they didn't have all of that technology back then. Do you think if they had that technology back then that the crime would have been solved sooner?
Oh, absolutely. I think if they had the technology and they had the technique that's used to solve these crimes, most definitely. The issue is when you're dealing with the government, a lot of agencies depend on state crime labs, and state crime labs, the amount of DNA required to even make a profile for CODIS is much higher than what a third party forensic lab can produce a genetic profile with.
Okay. Now I know in this situation, you had 3 sperm to deal with, right? That's it.
So from what I know, typically crime labs use about 15 to 20 nanograms of DNA to create a CODIS profile. And that's not a full genetic profile. That's just a partial. Our labs can we do about 3 to 5 is what we like. This was done with 28 picograms, which is less than 1 nanogram of DNA. It was incredibly low. I have never heard of a case that has used that small amount of DNA and been able to form a full genetic profile.
It's incredible that they still have the DNA. I mean, from so long ago. I mean, they've stored all of this stuff in the hopes of solving this crime. It's incredible. But hold that thought. We're going to come right back. We're going to take a quick little break. So much more fascinating stuff from Gabriella when we come back.
Do you or a loved one need the care of a nursing home? A vibrant community to call home with our healthcare professionals available 24/7? Candlewood Valley Health and Rehabilitation, located in New Milford, Connecticut, has been offering award-winning care for over 40 years. Whether you are rehabilitating from a cardiac procedure or hip replacement, or seeking a place for your loved one to live where he or she can receive top-notch health care, our team is at the ready. We also accept veteran benefits and offer a special, secure memory care unit for residents with Alzheimer's or cognitive-related conditions. Call us at 860-355-0971. Candlewood Valley Health and Rehabilitation, a place to heal and thrive. Ballas Associates, sales, service, and support for all your computer and PC networking needs. Whether it's wired or wireless, upgrades or repairs, backup or disaster recovery, we can provide the solutions to all your PC needs. No need to get frustrated. You know a guy. Just call Ballas Associates at 203-792-2300. That's 203-792-2300. Or visit them online at ballasassociates.com.
Welcome back to It Is What It Is with Cindy Seville. We have Gabriella Vargas here today, our genealogist who solved this incredible crime in 4 days and one of many. So welcome back, Gabriella.
Thank you.
Where do you live anyway? Tell everybody.
I'm in Northern California in a very small country town. Population 7,000. I'm actually from Silicon Valley in the Bay Area.
So you have birds and animals. You've got like your little farm.
I have like a mini farm. I've got chickens and rabbits and guinea pigs, a tortoise, an iguana, 2 African greys, 2 cockatoos, a macaw, cat, dog.
And they all get along?
For the most part.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let's go back to that case. A little bit, I guess, I'm going to ask you some details, how did you were up for 4 days straight.
Pretty much.
Yeah. You had like very little sleep. How did you come to the conclusion that you came to?
So essentially, when we do this type of work, if you think about your own family, your parents, your grandparents, great-grandparents, all the way up, you share DNA with all of them as an individual person. But when 2 people match each other, like you and your cousin, it only goes through one of your parents and one of their parents. And so essentially what the first thing I always do is I sort the matches, because there's going to be a mom's side and a dad's side. And we don't know what that is until we make the identification, but I call that side A and side B. And I know that these 2 people don't match each other, so they're on different parental lines of my subject. Once I do that, I take the one side, and I know these people all share DNA with each other. So I build out their family trees back in time to see the ancestor that those matches connect to each other. Once I do this, I have what's called the most, recent common ancestor. And I then have to build the tree forward in time. And I do this on both sides of side A and side B. Ultimately, what I'm looking for is a union couple. A union couple is where side A comes together with side B. Now, in this case, it was incredibly difficult. I know that they showed a chart on 48 hours that indicated these close matches I had. The highest match I had on the father's side was 90 centimorgans. So you're looking at possibly a third cousin. Unfortunately, her father was adopted. So in order for me to use her as a beneficial match, I have to figure out her mystery first. So I was able to do that. And then the next highest match on that side was 55 centimorgans, which is beyond, could be a fourth cousin, could be a fifth cousin. Mm-hmm. On the other side of the tree, on the mother's side, I had a day after I had started and agreed to take this on, I had gotten a pretty good match. I figured she was about a first cousin once removed, and I knew it was on her father's line. but she didn't know who her father was.
Wow.
So I made a deal with her that if she would screenshot for me about 5 of her matches that she didn't know who they were, I would find her father for her.
Oh.
And so she had done that, and there was a match that was a first cousin or a second cousin to her. I was able to find who he was, build him out. Now, I don't know if he matches my suspect, but I'm presuming based on his match to her. And then there was a third match that also matched the 2 of them. But again, I don't know if it matches my suspect. So the mother side of this tree was really, I took a chance. It was a gamble. And fortunately, the other thing that was kind of interesting in this case is that side, the suspect's mother side of the tree, they were all from Yugoslavia. But the DNA did not show that my suspect had any Yugoslavian.
Wow.
So I'm thinking I'm in a totally different area and something's, wrong here. And when it came down to those, I found the union couple. I found where this side of the tree connected with the other side of the tree. And I knew that I was in the right place.
It's absolutely incredible. I mean, genealogy. I never, it's funny. I never got into it. I remember being invited into the family, there's some website, and I'm like, you know what? I don't really care. I don't really care I don't know. I just don't care who's, I know my parents, I think my parents, you never know. I've always been the black sheep. So you never know. I'm totally different than the rest of my family. So I'm starting to wonder, but
I was the same. I had absolutely no interest in genealogy. I knew where my family came from. I really didn't care who migrated where and when. None of that was really relevant. I know that I'm Portuguese and Hawaiian, and I had Mexican children, so I know they're Portuguese, Hawaiian, and Mexican. That's all I needed to know, right?
Yeah.
And even so, still, I have to say, the genealogy is the boring part of this job. For me, I like the detective work. I like the investigation. I like figuring out the mystery. And I think what sets me aside from other genealogists in this field is that I have a knack for that part of it. And in fact, another case that I had solved was solely based on my intuition, because something didn't sit right in the whole story, and it had nothing to do with genealogy.
Right. But which is incredible. I mean, listen, you have to have that intuition. I mean, that intuition is so important, and you've got it. You really do. And I could see how obviously the genealogy, it helped you solve the crime. I mean, it's just incredible how, you explained to me even in more detail, with the father side. Well, tell me, how did you ultimately find, because you found him, you found the suspect in this particular crime?
I did, and the show and the news articles that have come out are very misleading. The bottom line is, fact be told, I identified the suspect. The agency confirmed. The company that I was consulting with provided me the platform. The Michigan University students helped organize the documents digitally. So it really was a collaborative effort. When it was probably 3 a.m, and I come down to this couple finally, where these two sides can come together. And I know the year the crime took place, and I know the age of the victim. And so I'm presuming that our suspect is not going to be more than 30 years old. And excuse me, when I look at the parents, the mother particularly, because she's the one bearing children, she was born in 1925. I put about 20 to 25 years per generation. So if she was born in 1925, I would anticipate her to have children by 1945, 1950. And lo and behold, her first son was born in 1951. So I knew based on that the suspect could not be her grandchild because they would have been too young to have committed this crime. So I first have to identify all of the children that this couple had. I can immediately eliminate their daughters. They didn't have any in this case, but because it was sperm, obviously it's not going to be one of their daughters. And then I start looking at the three sons. Now, I will say, when it comes down to a set of siblings, I cannot tell conclusively which sibling it is because the DNA is the same. It leads to the same two parents.
Oh.
What I can do is investigate more and look for circumstantial evidence that leads me to focus on one individual. And that's exactly what I did in this case.
So out of the three sons, what did you find?
I found one son was living in Tennessee. One son was living in Florida. Of those two sons, one had been in the military for many, many years and had no criminal record. The other one had a DUI back in like 1982. So he was pretty, not even a traffic ticket, you know.
Okay.
And then there was and they still were living out of state. The third son, Patrick Gillum, was literally living in another state, Indiana, but 4 miles away from the scene of the crime. He had an extensive rap sheet, which included similar crimes. He had gotten out of prison 4 months before this crime took place. So what I do is when I call the detective, and I called John Moore and I said, John, I cannot tell you which of the three brothers it is conclusively, but I would focus on this guy, focus on Patrick first, and here's why. Now, at that point, I'm just providing them the investigative lead. It is up to them to take over their investigation and get a DNA sample to confirm that I'm correct. And that's where things kind of went haywire.
Tell us why.
I actually, after this case was dismissed from the company that I was working with, so I no longer had access to the tree or any of the data or anything. I had to turn everything over. About a month later, I get a call from the detective who says, hey, you screwed up. We got DNA and it doesn't match. And I said, that's not possible. I had never gotten a case wrong. So I didn't have the data. And of course, the company that let me go wasn't going to let me come back and work on it. Right. So I spent 1 week. I recreated the entire tree, all the key players out of my memory. I have a photographic memory. And about the 5th day, I called John Moore and I said, John, I'm sorry to tell you, but my research is solid and either your lab or your person who picked up the cigarette screwed up and you need to look at that. And so he did. I guess they came to him and said, you know, we saw the cigarette being thrown out the window. We were a few cars back. We stopped where we thought it had landed and there just so happened to be a cigarette there. Unfortunately, that was just by chance. So they went back and they actually sat down and had a cigarette with him at the laundromat. And the undercover who did it wasn't even a smoker, which was even more hilarious. And so this time they picked up 3 of his cigarettes So if one failed, they had backup, and it was confirmed he was the suspect. So this took time. So I made the identification in April of 2021. He was not arrested until February of 2022.
Wow. Wow. It's incredible though how, how determined and how confident, you were in your investigation, and, you were right. You're right. You called it.
That's the thing. And that's, you have to think about typical detective work, when there is in their crime lab not enough DNA to be processed to go any further, right? It was very minimal.
Right.
So when you don't have enough DNA, when you don't have a witness, when you don't have any more leads, when people stop calling, that is when the case goes cold. And really, what more could they do? The family of Roxanne Wood was my motivation, determination, and inspiration. I read the case notes about how many times they showed up at the agency, they called, they emailed, they wrote letters, wanting to keep this case alive. And I actually got the honor and the pleasure to meet them after all of this, and I will be forever indebted to them. And I know that sounds a little bit backwards, but they never gave up hope, and they sparked something in me to bring justice for Roxanne.
Yeah, that's incredible. We're going to stop there because I want to talk more about Roxanne and the family and all that when we come back. So don't go anywhere. More when we come back from this commercial break with Gabriella.
Silvermine at Home, a Connecticut-based non-medical home care agency servicing Connecticut and parts of New York. Silvermine caters to their clients' needs while offering peace of mind to their families so their loved one can age in place and live their best life possible. Call today to see how they can make a difference in you or your loved one's life. Our family caring for yours. Visit silvermineathome.com or call 203-228-5007. Do you or a loved one need the care of a nursing home? A vibrant community to call home where there are healthcare professionals available 24/7? Candlewood Valley Health and Rehabilitation, located in New Milford, Connecticut, has been offering award-winning care for over 40 years. Whether you are rehabilitating from a cardiac procedure or hip replacement, or seeking a place for your loved one to live where he or she can receive top-notch health care, our team is at the ready. We also accept veteran benefits and offer a special secure memory care unit for residents with Alzheimer's or cognitive-related conditions. Call us at 860-355-0971. Candlewood Valley Health and Rehabilitation, a place to heal and thrive.
Welcome back to It Is What It Is with Cindy Saville and Gabriella Vargas. So Gabriella, what was the crime? What was the actual crime that occurred back in 1987?
It was a rape and homicide of a young married woman. The case was quite interesting. The husband and wife had gone out to dinner. They had went bowling. They had come in separate cars. I presume they came from work or whatnot. They were at the bowling alley, and it was about 12:45 a.m. that Roxanne was getting tired and wanted to go home. But Terry, her husband, wanted to hang out a bit longer. They lived within, 5 minutes of the bowling alley. So we assumed she would have gotten home, within that amount of time. And her husband, is seen at the bowling alley. That, it was confirmed he was there. The 911 call comes in at about 1:18 a.m. So you've got a very, very small window of time. There was no forced entry. I don't believe there was anything taken from from the home other than the knife that was used. So it doesn't really look like a burglary. The
Right.
husband Terry, when detectives, he's frantic on the phone. He detectives get there and he's got blood all over him, and he's saying it's because he's trying to help his wife. He's going to the aid of his wife. Unfortunately, uh even today, the husband, the spouse is always the prime suspect. And I get it. I understand why. But I believe sometimes that leads agencies to overlook other possibilities. And that's what happened in this case. Unfortunately, Terry really was not cleared of this crime in the public's eye until this year. Even when he took a DNA test in 2011 to confirm that it wasn't him, there was still this notion in the community and in the agency of, well, maybe you didn't do it yourself, but did you hire someone to do it? Did you have someone to do it? How could someone randomly come at that time of night when knowing she's alone? And so it was a very suspicious circumstances.
Did they ever figure out why he was there? Was he targeting her, or did it just happen? He broke in. I mean, did they ever figure out why he did this?
I actually got to watch some of the interrogation, and it was interesting. I'm going to say no. He had a history of this. He had been charged with other crimes, burglary and assault, which rape at the time was just considered assault. He had not, as we know, yet killed anyone, but there were a couple details that were left out of the media. One being when the detectives, after they had got the cigarette, when they were waiting for the results, they went to go and talk to him at his house. And they just said, "Hey, do you know why we're here?" And he goes, "I'm assuming it's the Australian girl that says that I raped her." And the detectives are like, "What?" They had no idea. So I don't doubt that there's even more victims.
Sure.
I think that he was likely an alcoholic and or drug user. He would get his feels on, seeking out single women or women that were alone to get pleasure. And he had been caught with other people's credit cards and IDs, and I'm sure for money purposes. I don't know beyond that what the motive is. I don't think they don't know how he was associated with Roxanne. My own personal theory is he was at the bowling alley that night. He saw her leave alone and he was gone before detectives got there to interview people. And because he lived in Indiana, nobody knew him. So they didn't say, "Oh yeah, Fred was here, drinking at the bar till whatever." And he left it right before she did. But that's just my own personal theory.
Yeah, it's a good theory though. I mean, because how else would he know? Would he be at her house when knowing she's alone? I mean, it kind of makes sense that he would follow her home.
In the interrogation, he is very clear that he only knows two Roxannes, and they're obviously not this one. The detective then throws a picture down, and his whole body language changed. He started shaking. You could see the difference in his body. When the detectives left the room, there is a piece of audio that I have where he mumbles to himself, "I should have learned from the first time. I'm going to die in prison." And then he does a lot of praying. So it's very interesting. The other thing is that Janet Woods, who Janet actually married Roxanne's husband Terry's brother. So you can only imagine when Terry's accused of this crime, what this does to Janet, who is married to his brother. And
So the two
she
sisters
looks,
married the two brothers.
yes.
Yeah.
And Janet looks so much like Roxanne. And when you see Patrick in the courthouse, he looks like he saw a ghost. I what I felt he was thinking in his head is, what the hell am I doing here? She's standing right there.
Wow.
But it's just his body language spoke.
Yeah, it doesn't lie. Body language doesn't lie. Nor does DNA.
Nor does DNA. And unfortunately, everything happened very fast. So it wasn't until July now so the case took four days. They had a while till July to get the confirmation, because they can't just go arrest him off of me saying that's the guy, right? They have to make sure I'm right. And then he was arrested in February. In March, he pled no contest. In April, he was sentenced. And unfortunately, I was at a conference at the time of his sentencing. I really, really wish I could have been there, because I wanted to look him in the face and say, I'm the one who put you there. And I'm proud, and I'm not afraid. People have asked, are you afraid he's going to have someone come knocking at your door? And I'm like, I welcome it. I welcome it. I protect myself, but I won't stop doing this, even if I were to ever get a threat. For me, this is about bringing closure to these families and justice to these victims. And that's why I now since have started my own company, to where I can further my mission in helping these families.
It's a question that I had for you also was, aren't you afraid? I mean, you put this man behind bars for how many years?
23 to life was a deal that the family had agreed on, because they didn't want to have to go through the heartbreak of a trial. But he's 60, 70. He's going to die in prison.
Absolutely. 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 Well, I mean, the fact that, here is this hardened criminal. He's done some terrible things throughout the course of his life. And you are brave enough to say, F you, you're going to prison.
I am a different type of individual. I am very humble. I did want to do the show. I keep to myself. I am not these big companies that, there's a lot of drama and nonsense. I do this because it feels good. It's very self-gratifying, and I know that there's so much just reward with the families just feeling relief, and there's so many cases that the agencies need help with.
Yeah.
Well, am I afraid? Hell no. I'm not afraid, because I come from the streets, so I've looked death in its face. I've looked death in its face when I was going through cancer treatment. I've been a survivor all of my life, and I would never let some hardened criminal take my pride or take me down. Not going to happen.
I give you so much credit. The peace that you've given, not just this family and this husband, he's, now his name is cleared and he can rest easy, he can breathe again. You've given so many other families, because you've solved other crimes, right? You've found loved ones for other people.
I have. And it's actually interesting. Since 48 Hours premiered, I now have like 300 TikTok followers. I've never posted anything on there. My daughter said, Mom, you get followers when you post content. And I said, I don't know how all this works. But I've had so many people reach out and say anything from, you're amazing, you're doing God's work, to can you help me, or like you want to come on my show, let's chat. The best one so far is the woman who reached out only to ask what color my hair was, because she paid $200 and her hairdresser screwed up her hair. And so she's like, I know you're not going to respond. You're a celebrity. And I said, I responded. I sent her the products. I told her how to do it.
Love it.
I said, fire your hairdresser. Here's what you need. And she sent me a picture and she's like, I love it. Thank you so much. Look, I am not a celebrity. In my eyes, I'm an average chick. I do woodworking and gardening, and I have a mini farm, and I'm a mom, and I'm a little bit of a badass, though. I do have to say that.
No, you're a lot badass. That's why I like you so much.
I keep it real. That's all I can say.
No, and that's what I saw. That's what I love about you. Now, I'm gonna announce to everybody. I mean, we kind of referenced 48 hours. You were on 48 hours. You were featured on 48 hours. What an honor! I would love to be on 48 hours.
It was beyond an honor. I actually turned it down. I didn't want to do it. The producer had found me on, I don't even know where he found me, on Facebook, I think. And he said, I love your vibe. I love your style. You're just so different than the other people that are in this industry. And we want to feature you on the show. And I said, oh, you're so sweet, but no, thank you. Because that's not what it's about for me. It's not about the notoriety. It's not about getting media presence. But when I found the family and I had spoke, and I did this for them. I did it because it was important. And I also did it because I got to visit Roxanne's gravesite. I got to visit her and meet her family. I got to meet the detective that I worked so hard with, but had never met in person. So it felt good. I wanted to go to the prison, but I didn't have a car, and it was 4 hours away. But had I got a rental car, I would have went to the prison too.
Listen, if I'm ever in your neck of the woods, or in that neck of the woods, I'll go with you.
I tell you, you're in that neck of the woods, I will fly there.
Okay.
I will fly there with you.
Michigan?
We will go.
Michigan?
Niles, Michigan.
Okay. All right. I'm going to Texas to meet somebody.
See, isn't that odd though? That I want to go, like, I want to have that conversation. Like, you know what it is for me? I'm not a detective. Like,
right.
You're going to be accused of a crime. You're going to put me away if I confess.
Yeah.
You're already in jail.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Just tell me. I already know the truth. I built your family tree out. I know it was you. Right? So let's cut the crap. Let's talk about it. Why did you do it? How did because there's still so many unanswered questions. Why did you do it? How did you know her? Did you follow her? Were you at the bowling alley that night? These are all the questions that I know that the family still has. And I want to go get answers. I want to know.
Right.
Also because I'm nosy,
Well, you have to be in order to do what you're doing and solve all these crimes. Seriously. So, well, listen, Gabrielle, we're out of time, but I have to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for coming on the show, for sharing your story, for helping so many people. I mean, what turned your life upside down has now, has allowed you to help, or enabled you to help so many other people. And I know how gratifying that is for you. So tell everybody how they can reach you. And give us the name of your business.
So DNAID, one word, .org, or on Facebook. My email is gvargas, VARGAS, @dnaid.org. Or like other people, you could look me up and just call me.
And if you need her, call me. I'll put you in touch with her. Need her services.
Absolutely. And if you message me, I will respond. People think, I don't know, I guess they reach out to other people who do this and they don't have time for them. I said, I've responded to everybody.
Yeah, you responded to me right away. And I have to tell you, I love the tattoos, because I know in 48 hours, right? We talk about the color of your hair and the tattoos and the, and it's not like, it's almost like they're painting a picture that you're not the type to be able to solve crimes.
Really quick, I will say that is why that was included in the show, because when the detective saw me and the person who he was working with, Colleen for the company, said she's going to solve this case, he later told me that I looked at you, saw your pink hair and your tattoos, and heard you were from California, a very liberal state. I said to myself, you have to be effing kidding me if you think that this woman is going to solve this crime,
right?
And so he later on said, don't let the pink hair fool you. She's a true pit bull of the genealogy world.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being on the show, and thank you for all you do. You're wonderful.
Thank you. And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. This was fun.
Oh, lots of fun. And we'll be talking again soon. So hang on one sec. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with my final thoughts. Welcome back to It Is What It Is with Cindy Seville. I hope you enjoyed the show. Gabriella Vargas is absolutely incredible. Her life turned upside down, and she took that and she ran with it, and she is doing incredible things. What do you do when your world turns upside down? Do you take that and put a spin on it and improve your life and do good? Well, that's what Gabriella did. That's what I did with my breast cancer. I mean, that kind of knocked me to the ground, and I'm able to give back. So just think, next time something terrible happens in your life, put a little twist on it and do some good. All right, we'll see you next time. It Is What It Is with Cindy Seville. Make sure to comment, like, and share, and you have a chance of winning my book. We'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in.
Live your life like a dreamer. Fly all over the world. Open yourself so the world can see. You're a beautiful pearl. Live each day like you mean it. And don't forget who you are. You're free to go